Hello, I'm Impact Weather Meteorologist Chris Saber with an outlook for the next 30 days across the tropics. We want to start out looking at the current activity. We have a couple of strong disturbances, one approaching the Eastern Caribbean, one in the Eastern Caribbean, 12 and 14. No development the next 3 or 4 days. Have to keep an eye on them as they reach the Western Caribbean Sea toward the middle and latter parts of next week. We are watching closely disturbance number 13, a weak area of low pressure in the eastern Gulf. It's moving slowly northward. It should move inland by Saturday. A reconnaissance plane will be investigating it tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be developing. About a 20% chance it could become a depression before it does move into the coast on Saturday. Main impact is heavy storms across Florida, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, not much to the west of it because of the strong southwesterly wind shear blowing across the disturbance. For you folks looking for the shuttle launch tomorrow, I think it might well be canceled with all the thunderstorms in the area. Looking out the next week, we continue to see a pattern of low pressure off the east U.S. coast extending down to the Gulf. This is going to persist for the next 10 or 15 days, and that's a prime pattern setup for development of tropical cyclones in the region. In fact, some of the models develop some of the energy from disturbance 13 off the east coast early next week and move it out to sea. That's a likely track of anything that would develop there. We also have to keep an eye on the southwestern Gulf. Some of the models show a low pressure center developing there next Thursday, Friday, and it could be from some of the energy from disturbance number 14 as it moves into the area. With this type of a pattern, it's certainly possible something could develop down there late next week. Another reason for potential development, the Madden-Julian oscillation is getting active. We have a pulse of increased thunderstorm activity and increased tropical cyclone development that developed in the Indian Ocean about 5 weeks ago. It's now reaching the eastern Pacific Ocean next week, and that could enhance thunderstorm activity across the region as well. As we see in this projection, the blue areas are enhanced thunderstorm activity across the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea by about the 11th, peaking out around the 15th here, and then starting to taper off after the 21st. So that corresponds to the energy east of the Caribbean arriving, and that might be a pattern set up for potential development in that region. So that's something we're going to have to keep a close watch on. Primarily, I think we have to look off the east coast early next week for a low pressure center forming there and then heading out to sea. Secondarily, down in the Western Caribbean Sea and southern Gulf of Mexico later next week for potential development. As we move beyond the 15th to 20th of July, we start looking farther east to the eastern Caribbean and even east of the Caribbean Sea as this region between the Caribbean Sea and Africa becomes more favorable for development toward the latter parts of the month. Our outlook for the rest of the season, we've made a slight change now just because we don't think we're going to see any chance of an El Nino. We think we're going to up the numbers to about 15 from 14 for the total number of named storms. 9 of those hurricanes, still 4 intense Category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes. No change there. We're just more confident now that we won't see an El Nino by the middle of the season. I want to remind everyone that we have our next 30-day Outlook webinar on Wednesday, August 3rd. You can go to impactweather.com, look for a link in the coming events section here, just where that yellow arrow is pointing, and we hope to see you there on August 3rd. Thanks for viewing. I'm meteorologist Chris Hebert.